Fresh off a 0-0 draw against Manchester City away at the Etihad Stadium, Arsenal returned back to London, or specifically North London, filled with confidence in what remains of the Premier League season and this title running. April sees a lot of fixtures coming in a quick space of time. When Mikel Arteta speaks, I think he speaks with authority. I think he speaks with charisma. I think he speaks with someone that knows exactly what they're doing and what they're trying to do. And even if I don't necessarily get everything at the time, I think hindsight, you do go back to Mikel Arteta's comments and then you kind of see what he meant. But for all of the stuff I've liked of what Mikel Arteta has had to say since he's began his tenure at Arsenal Football Club, I'm not too sure why, but for this season, for all the talking points we could have, there are two kind of falling out talking points which stick with me. One, when he said we have one of the finished squads, and secondly, when he said you need your best team available, or better yet, best players available around March to April. Now, obviously, we've just left the month of March and we're entering into April, where, as you saw in the graphic before, we've got Brighton on Saturday, we've got a midweek trip against Luton, we've got Bayern Munich, we've got a series of difficult games, if not on paper, in terms of the calendar list. The games are coming thick and fast. Football isn't one on paper. We don't know who is going to be fit and not fit. We don't know what the game state or the team dynamics have to say. But this is now where everyone in that football club, and specifically the playing staff, stand up to be counted. So then I find myself wondering, is it now time for Mikel Arteta to start trusting other players in his squad? Is it time for him to start rotating and being cute and clever with his team? That doesn't mean necessarily new starters that could be intercepting, people's minutes differently, bringing on subs sooner rather than later. But when you look through our calendar list or list of fixtures this month, there's not too many opportunities you could say to give players their first start. So I think with the trip to Luton, could a few changes be in order? First up for me would be the Octopus, aka Thomas Partey. On song, I believe he's our most complete midfielder, if I'm honest with you. I love the introduction of Declan Rice, and I love the way Declan Rice is, in a nice way, made me forget about Thomas Partey because of his injuries. But Partey against Manchester City for the first time in a while, bearing in mind he's been dealing with injuries, looked fit, looked sharp, and had a very impressive cameo, I believe. To be fair, I'm being harsh on Thomas Partey because at the Emirates, he did come off the bench and link up with Tomiyasu and Kai Havertz in what led to Martinelli's goal. There's speculation over Thomas Partey's long-term career at Arsenal, but where this campaign, the 2023-24 campaign, is concerned, one love to Jorginho, and Jorginho deserves regular football, and I'm not saying to drop him, but we need different options and we need everybody available. For this year at least, I would like to see Thomas Partey and Declan Rice together in the engine room for Arsenal Football Club on a consistent basis. I'm not saying to drop out Jorginho or not use him, because he has been great and he was great against Manchester City. But could you imagine Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice and Thomas Partey in what remains of our Premier and Champions League campaign? Thomas Partey is one of our most experienced players. As we saw in the graphic shortly before, Mikel Arteta said we need our best players available. And while I have no comments to hand, all you need to do is just go and look at what Mikel Arteta consistently says about Thomas Partey. I believe it would free up Declan Rice to be a bit more adventurous and nick the ball high up the field. Thomas Partey at the base would be great, or they could interchange. It'd be lovely. We all know in the summer we probably need a long-term midfielder for Declan Rice, but why not utilize Thomas Partey in what remains of the season? Of course, Mikel Arteta and the coaching staff have really had to wrap him in cotton wool, and there has been times he's come off the bench and looked extremely rusty, but against Manchester City was the first time he finally looked on it. He looked like he's hit some sort of peak fitness, some sort of looking like the Thomas Partey previously was. As we know, he didn't go off and play for Ghana because he was continuing his rehab at Arsenal Football Club, and like Tomiyasu got some minutes against QPR. I mean, sign for 45 million quid. If we can't use him in what's left of the Premier League and Champions League seasons, then we might as well give it up. But I would give him a start against Luton, if I'm completely honest. With the greatest of respect to Luton, and every game is a cup final and a must win, I think it's the perfect opportunity to give him a start and maybe even an hour of football. Now, I do think we need to get away as Arsenal fans from substitutes and starters. Better yet, we've got starters and we've got finishers. And I do think we need to understand that. And I think very few players are more suited to that role and just adaptable to every role than Tomiyasu. He's perfect when you want to see out games and be switched on defensively. He's perfect to start games. Obviously, I think he's the best 1v1 defender at the club, give or take, with Gabriel. He presents you with height. Obviously, he's not going to be the most dynamic in the final third, but he's improved and he's a vital member of the squad. And we've got some tasty options in terms of versatile defenders and versatile fullbacks. Kirill is having a great season of late. And with him playing 120 minutes for Poland and getting an hour or just over an hour against Manchester City, he might be one that actually needs to be demoted to the bench and then get the last half an hour. Where you look at Tomiyasu, could against Luton be the perfect chance to start him with Benjamin White, Tomiyasu, a fit timber, Kyrgios's adaptability, and everyone else we've got in the defensive options. We've got some good finishers. We're going to need Tomiyasu. There's so much to like about him: his humility, his technical level, his obviously defensive skills, his strength in the air. There's a lot to like about him. Unfortunately for Tomiyasu, a bit like Thomas Partey, he's unable to stay fit for the duration of the season. And that obviously, you get fit, you're in a good run of form as he was before his last injury, and then you have to start again. I do think he had an encouraging cameo against Manchester City, and I do think against Luton, Mikel Arteta could be presented with the perfect opportunity to start Tomiyasu off the back of an intense game to a degree against City. And what we played on the Sunday, they've probably traveled back on the Monday, give or take. Tuesday's a training session and Wednesday we go again. So it's a quick turnaround for a lot of these players who have played a lot of football. It sounds cliche when we get away from the heroics we kind of displayed against City in that we kept a clean sheet, we dropped 2 points. And with the Premier League race getting down to the wire, every point is vital. There are no easy games. There are no easy teams, with the greatest of respect to anybody that we're facing. So I could understand if Mikel Arteta named the strongest team he potentially could. But I do think Luton presents an opportunity to maybe not wholesale changes, but maybe start 1 or 2 players that, you know, haven't been starting on a consistent basis, and maybe blood some others in. And obviously you would still have to utilize the bench. Okay, you know, we know Saka is carrying a knock. I would understand if Saka starts, but that could raise into question, could Reece Nelson get an opportunity? With Martinelli's issues, could Smith Rowe get an opportunity either in the number 8 position, because Jorginho's played a lot of football, and I know I've mentioned Partey. Could he go back to playing on the left-hand side where he made his name? So that's the 2 Lenders. Fabio Vieira is another option to play as a 10 or an 8. I can't imagine that Odegaard won't play against Luton, but could Fabio Vieira get a start or significant minutes off the bench? He's also a potential option out wide. I think it was Sheffield United away. I could be wrong, but did he not come on at half-time for Bukayo Saka, who Mikel Arteta has been saying is carrying a knock? So there's a couple of isms and schisms that Mikel Arteta is going to have to do. Some players will get the 90, some I'd imagine would play 60 minutes. I don't want to underestimate Luton or look beyond them, but we've got a tough test away from home against Brighton and for the remainder of April / the end of the season. So we have to tread lightly, rotate the minutes, load the minutes appropriately, and ensure we have the strongest squad available week in, week out to be able to claim some major silverware this season, or give ourselves the best opportunity of doing such. I say this every time I do these kind of videos, but I'm happy I'm not Mikel Arteta. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you make changes and we don't get the result, you know the appropriate talking points, and vice versa. What I would say though, Mikel Arteta is next season, I don't really want to see comments about we've got the finished squad in the league and things like that. I think as much as we're doing great work and you're doing a phenomenal job, that is something I really want to hear you be saying in your first 18 months in the job, not at this moment, because I rate you so highly and I know you're meticulously calculated. I don't think you're happy with that comment, really. And I think that might be a degree of negligence and stuff like that on our part for as good as we have. As I said, I love Mikel Arteta. I'm happy I'm not him, though, because we're now in the decisive period in the Premier League season. You would have seen my potential lineup for the Luton game. I don't really want too many changes, but I think some people need to get minutes into the legs and we need to potentially save others. So it'll be interesting to see how Mikel Arteta navigates this last leg of the Premier and Champions League campaigns for us. You know, we've got 11 games to go, 9 in the league, 2 obviously in the Champions League, and let's hope it's a season to remember. Again, folks, let me know your thoughts in relation to the talking points we've spoken about. How are you feeling going into Luton? Let me know who you would start, who you wouldn't start, what you would do exactly. Let me know if you agree or disagree. The beautiful thing about football is we don't all see it alike. So yeah, smash the like button, comment, like, subscribe, check out the rest of the other vids, and until we meet up again, peace.